Hello everyone, here we have a two-part glass door hinge with old gaskets that age hardened. We're going to throw these away and prepare this hinge in these places right here where the gasket would fit. We're going to prepare the two parts of this hinge and the second hinge for the door and apply some rubber that I have on hand as new gaskets. To check that the thickness of my rubber was the right size, I cut up small pieces, just 4 small pieces like this, and just taped them on with some electrical tape so that I could do a size fit on the glass door just like this, making sure that the screws were the proper length. Now I am just using some roofing rubber at a thickness of 0.084, 0.083. But you can buy some stock gaskets and use this same procedure for installing your gaskets on your glass door hinge. The first thing we're going to do to prepare the hinges is to clean up with some soap and water all 4 surfaces in the 2 hinges. So scrub it really well, getting all loose debris off and dirt and grease and soap scum off, making sure it's nice and clean. Next, I'm just going to grab a piece of relatively coarse 80 grit sandpaper and lightly sand all of the 4 surfaces that the gaskets will touch, 2 on one hinge and 2 on the other. Next, it's time to prepare the actual gasket material itself, and so here I am just cutting some of this gasket oversized, and then we'll place the hinges on top of this material and mark out the size that we need. Here are the 4 surfaces of the hinges that the gasket will be in direct contact with. The flat plate section of the hinge is perfect for marking out the rubber sheet to the size that's required. So then I just went ahead and cut out 4 rectangles, and at this point these can still be slightly oversized, but 4 rectangles the size of the brass hinged plate that's required for your hinge. Now it's time to mark out where the holes would go, and this can be done for all 4 rubber gaskets. To start the cutting of the gasket, we would start on the side that's opposite of the 2 holes and right in the center of that. So I make one cut directly into the center of that hole and the second cut directly to the center of the second hole in the gasket. Next, I cut out some of the excess rubber right about here, and it's a safe position if you get it approximately about this distance from the center of the holes. And now for the part which is probably the most difficult, but not too difficult if you just take your time, and that is the cutting out of the rubber around the holes for the screws. I'm double checking here on the hinge itself to check for rough size and position. And then of course just go ahead and cut out the holes for the screws for the bracket. You don't have to worry, it does not have to be exact, just get it as close as you possibly can. Next we start trimming off the excess, making sure to oversize it using the hinge as a guide. This way we can get closer and closer until we get a perfect fit. And then of course we'll repeat this for all 4 gaskets. And now it's time to adhere the gaskets to all 4 pieces of the hinge. And here I'm just using some clear silicone caulk. You can see that it looks white here, but it dries clear. And so you can see I'm putting on a very, very thin layer of silicone, just about the size of a pea at the top of my finger, and spreading it around evenly to all 4 pieces. And then just firmly press on the gasket in place to each piece onto the wet, thin film of silicone. Now we need to clamp these gaskets onto these hinges for at least 24 hours to let the silicone dry in place. And the best place to do this is to clamp it right onto the glass door that we're mounting these. Now we're only applied silicone between the gasket and the hinge. We're not going to apply the silicone between the glass and the gasket yet. We're just letting the gasket dry onto the hinge itself. After the gaskets have dried for about 24 hours, now we can mount the hinges on the wall and then mount the glass door onto the hinges. And I used the same thin layer of silicone spread evenly onto the gasket before I clamped the door onto the hinge itself. And again, I let that set for 24 hours so that it could dry. Another important tip: when installing the screws on the glass door when you're mounting it onto the hinges, use liquid thread lock on the screws to prevent them from coming loose. As the door gets used and used over a long period of time, this will help secure it and prevent a lot of headaches in the future. When the door is finally installed and dried, I'll do a final trim on any piece of gasket that might have bulged out during the installation process, and this makes for a fine, clean look. I hope you found this video useful. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you next time.